Big smiles. Hello, welcome to That Pedal Show. Mick here. Dan not here, although hastily cut out cardboard Dan is here. You can see by his grimacing face there that Dan is unwell. He's got a chest infection. We were due to record this week, and unfortunately he's really not well. So rather than leave you videoless, I thought we would do something that we talked about doing and talk about Uni-Vibe type pedals. Now, Dan and I are going to do kind of a comparison in the way that we do of many different Uni-Vibe type pedals coming up. So before we do that, I thought I'd just run through what we might think of as Uni-Vibe basics. I've come down here to the very salubrious practice room, as you can see, and just set up a few things. Got a H&K Puretone, which is kind of about as Marshall-y as I can get without actually owning a Marshall at this time, except for the Class 5. 5 watts. A lot of people call it a mini blues breaker. Right. Uni-Vibes. Dan, help me out. Yeah, he's not saying much. Right, so Uni-Vibe is a 4-stage phaser, made very famous in the late 60s, of course, thanks to a certain Mr. Hendrix and another Mr. Trower. Plenty of people make a sort of modern remake, a vintage reissue, as it were. One of the closest is the full-tone Deja'Vibe, which I've got on the board down there, made by Mike Fuller in California. Uses proper photocells to get that very particular sort of phasey. It's not a rotating speaker sound, although that's what it was designed to be. It's very much its own sound, as you'll hear. So, where do you put the Uni-Vibe? It's a subject of much debate, not least because probably the two people that are most famous for using it had it in different places. So let's start from the beginning. On the board, I've got the things that are important today are the overdrive, the Uni-Vibe type, the Deja'Vibe, the Wah Wah. The delay is really there for a bit of fun, and in a minute there'll be a fuzz, but not yet. So what does standard pedal order say? Well, if there is such a thing, it says filter first, wah wah, then overdrive or distortion, then modulation. So in the standard way, you would have wah wah, overdrive, Deja'Vibe. Now, as you can see, I've got 2 Analog Man King of Tones. Ooh, look at me. One of them belongs to Jack Duxbury, thank you, Jack. But they are set up to sound the same, even though the knobs aren't in the same place. One of them's a high gain version. I've set them up to sound the same. Here's how they sound. So here's the H&K. Whoa, hear that little bit of flap on the top of the greenbacks there. Right, so here's King of Tone 1 followed by King of Tone 2. So not absolutely exactly the same, but certainly very similar. So here we go then. Let's go overdrive first, Deja'Vibe second, and just before we do that, here's the Deja'Vibe. Yeah. What's happening in that 4-stage phaser in the Deja'Vibe, a Uni-Vibe type circuit, is there's a huge amount of filtering going on. So what can happen is, if you hit it with overdrive in the front, you can get some very kind of harsh overtones that start coming out because of the way that filtering is sweeping. So having the 2 Analog Man King of Tones either side, I can start with before, which is what you've just heard, and then quickly switch to overdrive after. So it's the same overdrive, one before, one after, and I'll just demonstrate those so you can hear the difference. So here we go. Start with overdrive before Uni-Vibe. So there I went from overdrive before Uni-Vibe to overdrive after Uni-Vibe and then overdrive before Uni-Vibe again. What's happening is, with the overdrive after the Uni-Vibe, it should sound a little fuller and smoother. Now, why is that interesting? Because that's how Robin Trower uses it. Robin Trower uses his and he actually uses a Deja'Vibe by Full Tone very first in the chain and runs his overdrives after. If you've got a cranked overdriving amp after the Deja'Vibe, it's kind of acting as if you've got more overdrive, another overdrive pedal after the Deja'Vibe. Now that's why, so some of that high end and some of that sizzle and some of the huge differences you get in the filtering there can get evened out a little bit by the overdriving amp. That's the way Jimi used it. So into a clean amp, you might find that if you put another overdrive pedal after the Deja'Vibe, that helps you get a smoother sound. If you've got an already overdriving amp, you can kind of do it like Jimi did, fuzz first, Deja'Vibe second, into the overdriving amp, which we'll come on to in a minute. So before we do that, before we go into fuzz land, the Hughes & Kettner is obviously an extremely loud amp. I mean, it's bonkers loud, but sounds brilliant. What I've got also here is a Marshall Class 5 watts. So let's have a quick listen to that, and I'll just do the same thing. So I'll start with overdrive. In fact, here's the Class 5. Breaking up nicely there, probably a little bit of power amp distortion, certainly a bit of speaker distortion. Let's hit it with the King of Tone. Yep, so a bit of mid push there, making that sound quite harsh. Let's try the Deja'Vibe. Swap the overdrive, so the overdrive now comes after. Before. After. Before and after. Getting silly. So you can hear, or at least I can hear, sat here, that putting the drive after the Uni-Vibe sounds a little bit smoother, a little bit warmer. So there you go. That's the basics of that covered. And just to restate the point, that's how Robin Trower does it. Overdrive after Uni-Vibe. Right. So you've heard the Marshall, you've heard the H&K. Let's pull the first analog man off the board and stick a Fuzz Face on, and then we'll get into a bit of Jimi territory. How about that? Right then, as you can see, I haven't taken the analog man off. I've just put the Fuzz Face on top. Everything's being controlled by Quartermaster 6, by the way. My G2 is currently en route to becoming a full pedal board, so I didn't want to rip it all to pieces. So Quartermaster 6 just gives us the independent loop switching. And I should also just say that the reason that I decided to do this video in Dan's absence, by the way, for anyone who's just come in, he's not very well, which is why I'm doing it on my own. Let's send him lots of positive vibes. Get well soon, Dan. Look, you can see that he's not very happy. Is because one of the things that I get up to, in addition to doing the pedal show, is I edit the technical questions in Guitarist magazine, and somebody wrote in and said, where do you put the Uni-Vibe? So, having looked into it, I thought, well, why don't we demonstrate it as well? Right, Fuzz Face. Okay, so this is of course how Jimi did it. Well, it's how Jimi did it as far as most of the pictures we have would say. So if you're a Jimi expert and you know things that we don't, please don't write in threatening to burn our houses down or anything like that. It's just, this is how Jimi did it most of the time, so that's what we'll go with. Wah Wah first, Fuzz second, Deja'Vibe third, or Uni-Vibe third, but most important of all, his amps were overdriving. So that was a huge part of the sound as well. So here we go. The Wah Wah I've got is a Budda Wah. I'm not even sure if they make them anymore, but just sounds good. It's the wah that I've always used when I use a wah, which isn't very often. Cool, love ace sound. The fuzz is a Jimi Hendrix BC108 silicon fuzz. Now, Jimi used lots of fuzzes across his career, not least the ones modified by Roger Mayer. Later on, it said that he used more silicon than germanium, so whatever. This is a Hendrix silicon fuzz, and it sounds like this. Here's the amp. Here's the fuzz. Sorry for that awful bend. Oh yeah, it makes a little bit of noise when you turn it down, but listen to this clean sound. Ace, who doesn't love fuzz faces? Right, wah into fuzz. I've just had to stop to tune my guitar. Right, so what did you hear there? You heard wah wah. I then turned the wah wah off, and you heard the Fuzz Face and the Uni-Vibe, and then I also switched in the King of Tone after, just to get some really crazy extra distortion on the end of that. Okay, what does that sound like into the Class 5? Let's see. Let's just go with the fuzz and the Deja'Vibe to begin with. So. It's mad. The bottom end is completely mad. So there you go. Okay, as if by magic, Gibson SG. What does it sound like with humbuckers, I hear you ask? More or less in tune. Right. Here is the guitar just straight into the Hughes and Kettner. Definitely breaking up a bit there. In fact, quite a lot. Right, here's the Uni-Vibe, Deja'Vibe. Yeah. So there's a clean sound. Here it is with fuzz. So what I was saying right at the top of the video about how you could really hear some of the magnitude, if you like, of that phasing that's going on. So the filtering goes, you know, it's really, really pronounced when you've got the distortion before the Deja'Vibe, Uni-Vibe. And of course, that really brought that out with the Fuzz Face. So I'll get that sound up again without the wah-wah this time. Fuzz Face and Deja'Vibe, and then I'll move to the Deja'Vibe and the King of Tone, but remember the King of Tone is after. Right, so here we go. Fuzz Face into Deja'Vibe, and then Deja'Vibe into Analog Man, no Fuzz Face. Everyone still awake? I am just. sound! What a sound! That thing I keep playing in various videos is nicked from a live version of Worried Life Blues by Michael Landau Group at the Baked Potato. Go and listen to it because it's got, well, it's just completely awesome. Anyway, that sound kind of made me think about it a little bit. So there we go. That's a bit what it sounds like with humbuckers. Oh, let's just hear it through the Class 5. I'll get that exact same sound up again. This time through the Class 5, not through the Hughes and Kettner. Right, what do we have? We had Deja'Vibe, Analog Man, and a bit of delay from the Analog Man as well. Right. Yeah, so not the bottom end, nothing like the bottom end of the big amp. I wonder what they both sound like. Oh, that was fun. So there we go. What have we learned? One, Uni-Vibe type pedals sound great. They also sound really nice for cleans. Okay, I think that's us. What have we learned? Standard order would say put your modulation effects after your overdrive. However, in the case of a Uni-Vibe type pedal, which has got a very severe amount of filtering going on, you might find that it sounds better before the overdrive. Hendrix used it after his Fuzz Faces, but it was going into a very overdriven amp, so there was overdrive happening at the other end as well. Robin Trower uses his before, so he uses it first in line, and that's about it, I think. Sorry there was no Dan this week. We couldn't have our usual repartee. There he is, looking sad, look, all in his sick bed. So Dan, I hope that wasn't too excruciating for you to watch, and nor for you guys out there either. Other good news, t-shirts are coming this week, so look out for those. And that's it. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. I hope it's been okay with just me and not him. Normal service will be resumed next week. Okay, right. Peace out. Yeah.